Welcome to the Yunique Mind Podcast. I'm Dr. Yuni, a licensed psychotherapist, founder of Yunique Counseling, and a passionate advocate for mental and emotional wellness. This is your space to explore the transformative power of therapy, with a special focus on demystifying hypnotherapy and healing. Each episode will dive into topics that challenge limiting beliefs, unlock the mind's full potential, and empower you on your journey to self-discovery. So take a nice deep breath, open your mind, and let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Yunique Mind Podcast. Today we have a special guest interview with Alexa Littlestar, an alchemical hypnotherapist with many years of experience. And I've had the pleasure of working with her personally, as well as attending several of her teachings, and she's very good at what she does and a wonderful resource. Hi, Alexa, welcome. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit of history about what got you into alchemical hypnotherapy.
My name is Alexa Littlestar, and that name was given to me. My original birth name is Alexandra. I was born in Germany, and my grandmother gave me that name on the preface of the Library of Alexandria. She always thought Alexandra was a strong name. It means protector of the innocent, or protector of the voiceless, or something like that, which was kind of a trait of mine I've had my whole life. I always was the bully patrol, or stepping up for people that couldn't speak or I didn't have the confidence. And so later down the line, about maybe 10 years ago, I met one of my elders, and she does Tibetan numerology. And we ran my name through the name equation that she does, and it said it had several money blockages in it. It was way too long, and I'm Alexa now. She basically told me I was Alexa, and I was like, Alexa? What? Alex, my whole life. And so it became Alexa. The Littlestar is from a spiritual lineage that I was named by my teacher, Maria Yesburu, from Yesburu Earth Wisdom. This is a Native American tradition that I walk on next to the Western Alchemy path, walking the Red Road and the alchemy of Native Americans, which has just been a wonderful addition to the work of alchemy that I do. I did get into hypnosis I had a lot of pain in my body. I just had no idea where it was coming from. And I saw an ad online that said somatic healing with David Quigley. And I was like, okay, this is in Santa Rosa. I can drive there. And I drove there, took a 3-day somatic healing class, and I was sold on alchemical hypnotherapy. It was literally an eye opener of how I could heal my body, myself, because I didn't like going to doctors or having prescriptions or things like that. It was like to be natural. And so in alchemical hypnotherapy, I found out that we can heal ourselves from within with the help of spirit guides, with the help of inner family, and this wonderful, awesome thing called spiritual surgery. And I know that all sounds a little bit, what is going on? And I realize it's not the mainstream traditional path of hypnotherapy, which is very clear that it's a very small niche that our teacher David Quigley has comprised from all the methods all around, and added his own idea with using the spirit guides and the inner family as a foundation. And so I healed my mercury poisoning out of my system, which I was told can't do it. You need this, you need that. And through the work with the inner healer, I actually healed that. And that made me want to become a teacher of the method. And I just kept going to class, kept assisting. And years later, I got my certificate to teach alchemy, alchemical hypnotherapy. And that's what it is now in the present.
Wow. So what was so do you know what the source of the mercury poisoning was? That's interesting that you're
Yes, it's, I'm tattooed from head to toe. So people were always saying, oh, it's the tattoos. But it wasn't the tattoos. It was a preventative method, I thought, because I had a lot of mercury in my mouth, because that's what they used for the fillings back in the day. And I knew
Yeah.
that they were cracking and possibly leaking. And so I wanted to get them all out to prevent this, went to a dentist and found out not every dentist does the blockage of the gases when they start agitating the mercury. You actually
Mm-hmm.
inhale the gases. And just was too much too fast. I later found out it's actually better to take one tooth at a time and then do I don't know what the word is called in English, Ausleitung in German, is getting rid of the little bits of mercury with all these green things and maybe a little, and then the next tooth and the next tooth, and not do the whole mouth all at once. It was just too
Oh,
much.
I see.
It's too much.
Right. Oh, wow. Wow. That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that was even, possible, but yes, that things they used to use toxic things on people.
My God,
Right.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. We still have toxic stuff. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So I like that. I think it's important that we talk that the spiritual hypnotherapy is very different than, let's say, like traditional hypnosis where people read a script and somebody wrote that script for whatever reason. But yeah, so maybe talk a little like what has your experience been like with the spiritual guides, or what do you notice about the difference in what we do in alchemy versus like traditional hypnotherapy? Like,
That's really interesting because I didn't even give it much thought until recently when I observed a training, a train-the-trainer training from the National Guild of Hypnotists. I just have that behind me now to get the certificate for that. And that is absolute mainstream hypnosis. It's everything from weight loss, PTSD, everything that we also do, with the basis of a very rapid induction, not chasing any trauma, just actually going to a good memory. There's hardly any regression in it. It's mostly a reprogramming of the brain with positive affirmations and physical clues. And so I was surprised how simple the techniques were. They're using the same amount of rapid induction methods, they're using colors, but completely different than we do in alchemy. And I do believe that it works because they have a huge success rate with certain issues like smoking and weight loss. But they also told us that they're not doing pain control without a referral for a doctor. They're not doing certain sessions that we can do with alchemy without the medicine behind it, or without the working together with a doctor, because I think for them it's a huge liability issues. I believe that's what it is. And so the difference between that and alchemy, and I'm still finding out if that's true with the liability and all that, because they go through insurance a lot. Some states actually pay for hypnosis through insurance. And in the alchemy, I noticed that the people that go through the alchemy, that there are different types of clients. I feel like they're the kind of clients that want to know, that are curious about, why did
yeah.
the disease enter my body? Why do I cannot get away from this person? And so I feel the alchemical method has a much bigger spectrum of things that we can not treat, but that we can discover. We're not treating anything. We are just looking at the root causes. We're doing this root cause therapy in a sense. We're going back to contracts people might have made, because we're working with the causal plane, the physical plane, the emotional plane, and the intellectual plane. We're working on 4 different planes. And
Mm-hmm.
spirit, you might as well look at spirit as the structure that's holding the work up. We're going into the unconscious mind of the client, and together with their spiritual guidance, we work things out, which makes us a conduit, right? We're the conduit, the extension cord between the client and their subconscious or unconscious, taking them there safely and taking them back, which gives us an unlimited amount of things we can treat based on how we set an
Mm-hmm.
intention. Of course, never using the words treating or even
Mm-hmm.
curing
Mm-hmm.
or healing, because we're not doing
Yeah,
any of this work. Spirit does the work.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Which is kind of also their guides. I hope sometimes like even like a channeler where we're just kind of helping them connect. Like I said, they can conduit, like connecting them to their own inner wisdom and spirit. So that's is very different. But yeah, and I think I also heard, um, the that type of therapy that's just a reprogramming the brain. It does have limitations because there's oftentimes blocks, right? There's like really deep rooted blocks to really fully getting to the root of, what is creating us from, or blocking us from actually making those positive changes, right? So you can do all the reprogramming of the brain, but if there's still something that's uh, at the root cause of, the source of that, issue, you never get to that. It's like just pulling weeds or cutting weeds, but you never got to the main root of the weed. So, yeah.
Here's something I have noticed in the lately, because I'm studying with another woman that does stuff with the chakras, realigning the chakras and opening the chakras. And what I found in when we treat people like this, we notice that the chakra that is mostly blocked off, which could be really any of them, but if your crown chakra, if your connection to spirit is blocked, then
Yes.
I have to deal with that first. And so this could translate into a faith crisis. So what I do notice with a lot of clients, I'm asking them simple questions. Who do you pray to? What is your spiritual, where is your spiritual home? Do you believe in anything above yourself? And if I'm, of course, dealing with somebody that's an atheist and says, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in spirits, then I might say to them, well, then my type of hypnosis, we can try to see if you can change your perception and your experience. But often that's the thing, is that people are cut off to spirit. They
Yes.
have they might have had something as simple as it's not simple. Somebody died in their life and they're in the grappling with God moment of why did
Mhm.
this happen? How could you let this happen? And
Right,
so
right.
helping them then deal with grief and how they're opening up that channel again, you were talking about channel, to even feel anything coming in and out, feel that energy of something
Mhm.
that's bigger and something that's holding you in the
Yeah.
world. Yeah.
Or even, connecting with nature or, universe or something oftentimes will help open that up. But yeah, there is a lot of mistrust. And there's one of my professors who was actually, I went to Christian uh, college for my master's in marriage and family therapy. And they said that your relationship with God is like the relationship with your parents. So if you had very, you know, like a damning or shaming or, conflict ridden relationship, it is like you're not going to have a very trusting, open relationship with spirit or universe for sure, right?
Yeah. And
Mhm.
that's why it's so important that in the alchemy, what we can provide for people is the connection to spirit, the connection to the earth, the breath work that we do, connecting with the earth and our surroundings. I think that makes it really beautiful and very magical, which is I think what the clients like about it.
Yeah.
However, the other type is really good for people that just want results. They don't really care about any of that. And I watch it work. I know many colleagues that are doing just that, and it works. But to me, it's more satisfying. The alchemy is more satisfying because I'm such
Yeah.
a curious person.
And
I want to
and
know.
I don't even know where it's going to go. So sometimes you just open yourself up to guidance, and then it's just something happens magically in the session. Then you get that, this kind of surreal experience, and then, but ultimately they get what they need to get, and it's not really up to us to tell, guide them in that. It's just we're just connecting them with their, higher self. I believe so. And yeah, you were mentioning the chakras. I do a lot of the chakras are corresponding to the colors. So a lot of times the colors that show up in the session are their body's already, realigning as we're doing this, the alchemical work. So I feel like it's much less work when we just allow spirit to do the work.
Yes,
Right? We don't have to overthink it.
this is
Yeah.
true. This is why the protocols that we teach in the alchemy world are so efficient, because we can just go down the box, and if we hit all the points, we're going to have some results. For those of us that have done it much longer, we can use, I call it freestyle alchemy. We can use all the tools, and that therefore I think the spectrum on which we can provide support is there's almost hardly anything that we can't touch on with alchemy.
Exactly. Yeah, that is interesting. When I first started, because I've been doing this, I think a couple of years now, and when I first started, I was so like worried about what should I do, what should I say, and it was like so anxious for me to do the induction. But now it's like, it's just I say the few words that I think are important, and then Spirit does the rest of the work. So it's really a beautiful kind of freeing, way of doing things, I think.
Yeah.
What have you maybe noticed about what has maybe changed, or what's maybe the major themes that are coming up for us as humans, and this evolving? You said something about more awareness about what we're here maybe to do, or purpose. So yeah, maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think in the whole collective, I think our shamanic archetype is emerging. A lot more people are realizing, oh, I want to be in service. I want to help people, which is really, I think, essentially in my belief system, the reason why I'm here is to learn and to serve. And then hopefully I did a good job at the end. I wasn't always in that bracket, obviously when I was younger and rebellious and freedom and authority, and I pooped on everything and I was a total rebel. Learning now as a woman of a certain age about so much more wisdom, and through this work I have discovered that this is not just me, this is literally other people too that are just starting to really um, drop into the deeper consciousness of why we're here, wanting to explore. And what I found in sessions in the moment when we hit a trauma and we're providing the solution, and the client is at a intersection where they can put back all the shit that they received from a perpetrator or from somebody that treated them badly or did them wrong. They used to throw it right back in their face, and now I'm noticing people are wanting it to be transmuted elsewhere, because people are getting more compassionate when they go and look at past lives. They get more compassionate because we're able to see that their mother was in a circumstance pregnant with them that she couldn't even help but not successfully carry this out the way that you would want that. And so I noticed that it's gotten gentler on the etheric plane. The work has gotten gentler. The emotional release is still there, and I still very much encourage people to let loose and do all the things they need to do. But then when it comes to what do you want to do with this person now, it's always, I want them to also get healing. I want them to be sent to a place where their inner child can heal so they can receive what I'm receiving now. So I think the spectrum of compassion is definitely growing. Even it doesn't look like it on the outside because we're all in our phones and in our devices. But in session,
Right.
that's what we're specifically talking about in session. Another thing that's very dominant with my clients right now is working with what we call the toxic feminine. And that is to help women establish their own inner connection with the divine feminine. And so the divine feminine comes in many different ways. She can be this, she can be that. But what's coming up is we're trying to identify inside the women what what do you call it? What their sacred divine frequency would even feel like. Because there's so much abuse over the generations and generations of women that we're looking at the men and going, oh, they're all narcissists, they're all toxic, they're all this. And the men are like, oh God, this is getting too complicated. And we're literally having numbers of men and women are not getting together anymore in a holistic, healthy way. And so helping women, which mostly more women are coming to me than men, are trying to balance that out. They don't even know it's out of balance, but when I bring it up and I start talking about how they might present in relationships, then they find themselves in the bracket of angry, um, revengeful, never again. I will never again do this and this and this and this, which blocks them from actually receiving the love that they're actually looking for. And so
Yeah.
working with the feminine and bringing her in balance with the women's masculine, because all the independent women that worked so hard and are so accomplished and achieved. And I know you know what I mean by that. I don't need a man. I can make all the money, have all the houses, do all the things. But then there is still a void, right? There's still that void. And what is that void? What is that void if not the balance between your own masculine who's accomplished all of this, and your inner feminine who's been mostly widely suppressed from play and that kind of, dance. So I think that's a really big part of helping people balance out the masculine and feminine at this moment.
Yeah, that's interesting what you're saying, because I'm doing a woman healing circle at the end of the month, connecting with your divine feminine and their goddess energy, and so that sacred, frequency of increasing and releasing what's blocking us, right, from that balance. But it's interesting how we really have also men are coming more into therapy, and they also are imbalanced, right, in the they're wanting to reconnect with their more feminine, divine energy as well, because we have both, right? I think it's oftentimes confused with gender, but it's really important to say, okay, we all have masculine, feminine energy that helps to soften and be strong. It could actually have both within us, and both are very important. But yeah, I find men are also just almost craving this, like, nurturing. It's a part of our wounded child. I think it's really also like showing up to say, you're out of balance. You need to play, you need to have fun, you need to nurture yourself, love yourself, care for yourself, have compassion. But we totally don't know how to do that.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have, like you said, the example for each child is a mother and a father. They are the gods, right? That's why this is what you said, it translates into not believing, because if your gods failed you, your mother and your father, the ones you learned from how to be a woman and how to be a man, most of us didn't have both. And so we say these days, because it's so common, divorce is such a common act, there's so many single moms out there, that's just a sign of the times. And I say, no, that's a sad sign of the times. If all these toxic relationships didn't work, the ones that will suffer no matter what are the children, right? Because they didn't have this, they don't know what it's like to have both of these energies in balance in their upbringing. So how are they going to know what it's like?
And I think that's why this alchemy work is really important when we do the inner child, inner parent guides. It's like they're finding these missing, almost like energies or frequency archetypes that they've been missing in their whole life. There's like, I didn't have a mother or father really that was healthy. So when we did the inner child rescue, we call it, or the inner parent, mother or father, it's interesting. I still don't have an inner father. I have an inner mother, right? And an inner mate. But it's like, I think sometimes it's like we don't know what that ideal archetypal, father or good mother or good father is, because we've never really experienced it. But our higher self knows.
Right.
So it's interesting how people really are craving this connection with.
Yes, because, I just had a client and we did a womb transplant, which is when you meet your new inner mother and you get to kinesthetically relive the art of the birth in a good way for you. And then you have this moment where you're bonding with the inner mother. And if you never had that initial bonding with your mother, that's just going to have all kinds of issues down the line. So yes, you're absolutely right. And that's again something that I think the alchemy method has that other things don't have, is the structure of the inner family, which is just, I think it's essential. I think it's essential even if you had semi good parents. Sometimes it's the traits of a healthy mother and the traits of a healthy father that could be there, but could be partially there. And so having someone you can go to in your own inner world to pacify that longing, so you don't put that on your partner or project that in your marriage.
Yeah. Well, even ironically, some of my clients who've had parents who provided for them still are missing, like they say, they feel like their parents weren't emotionally present, or they had nannies that were taking care of them. So they really didn't have that mother-father bonding. And so that's something that really they're craving for too. It's like, I wish they were there more, present more, right? So it's still that emotional bonding that is missing.
Yeah.
And so that, yeah.
And this can also be for some people that have a lot of family trauma, the mother being the earth and the father being the sky. We use that from the native philosophy, Mother Earth, Father Sky, of the sacred parents, right? That helps a lot of clients that are not ready for those physically looking inner parents. Like,
Yes.
you can't even imagine what it would look like, but the earth sounds good, the sky sounds good. So they feel like they're suspended between the parents, like that wholesome picture on the beach, mom and dad swinging
Yes.
the kid in the middle, which is a picture that everybody looks at that picture, and depending on what healing they're in, they might go, eh, or they might go,
Yeah.
oh man, that looks so good.
Right. And some interestingly, like they'll when they've had so much abuse or neglect with humans and their family and their parents, like sometimes it's just an energy. It's like it's not even it takes any form. It's just a feeling of your higher self, or spirit guides there. But kind of reminding us that we're not alone, that we have these inner energies, whatever you want to call them, to really support us through our life, which is, I think, is very important when you really not had anyone in our life that's been there for you and supporting. So I think these healing circles that are happening much more now is like we're all getting the same, I call it download, right? From spirit that says this is a very important bonding and sacred space for people to really heal and to reconnect, even the sisterhood or the brotherhood, and with your inner parents, which a lot of times I do mostly inner child healing and rescuing. Is so much, karmic wounding around that. Our ancestors are coming back to also help heal this wound of, I call it karmic wounds or trauma that they passed on to us, right? So we still have to heal it, even if, we don't want to in this lifetime, right?
At least recognize it. I think when I think of ancestors, I believe the ancestors are always there. I think they always have been there. I think it's our cut off. It's that being cut off from spirit that makes us not think of ancestors. Ancestors was something for indigenous people in the Western world. We're like, oh yeah, the ancestors of the indigenous people talk of the ancestors, never stop talking of the ancestors.
They
They
were also mad at the ancestors because they also had so much abuse, right? So there's this like rage or anger that has to be healed with the ancestors, because the ancestors were sometimes the ones who were doing the abusing and the neglecting. And so, of course, you're not going to have that bond or connection that's healthy if there's so much conflict, right? So I'm almost like, yeah,
absolutely.
forget you.
Yes, and then we learn this in the alchemical class too, and I'm sure in many other ways do we learn that the ancestor, once people cross over, they become spirit, and they become spirit guides, and they have transmuted all those things. And that's why I think they're probably coming to help us to redirect all that energy, cut the cords, bury the hatchet literally, and just let that shit go so it doesn't weigh us down while we're here in this reincarnation, and just
Exactly.
use
Yeah.
others as a resource more than more of a resource helping us, because we're the first one in line now going forward.
Yeah, and that sometimes it takes many, many sessions to heal even that wound between the ancestor and or like if it was your father or mother who passed, and there's so much anger and resentment and guilt and grief that needs to be processed before you can really let it go. I mean, it's not like a simple, easy process for sure, but with alchemy, I feel like it's a much gentler but powerful method. So you've helped me several times with dealing with a lot in my training as well as after. It was like I had a lot of karmic wounds and ancestral wounds to heal. Like I don't know my father's side, but it doesn't matter because your body remembers everything. We're all connected. And so I had a lot of right side pain, and now it's gone. It's just like I keep looking for it. It's like
Ah, let it be. It's
right. So my body was so used to having the pain, and then now I look and I'm like, where is it? Like what happened? Where'd it go? Right. But yeah, it was literally transmuted and cutting those unhealthy cords.
Yeah, good. Well, congratulations. And you did the work. Like you came to the class, you were so open and I felt like you were doing well, really quickly because I think you were so ready
I was ready. Yeah.
yourself,
You did it.
get up the shit.
Yeah, it was part of it. Yeah, yeah. But it didn't really take long. It was like maybe I did a good a year of the work, but then it was like finally understood like what is my path and what am I supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
Which kind of goes to like call it an awakening, or some people will call it a ascension, but an awareness that something that we're here to do, our purpose, right? Our soul's purpose, our mission here, really kind of like quickly happened during menopause. And we talked a little bit
Yeah.
about, what is menopause? What's it doing? What's it doing to us? But it almost is like, I've heard people say it's like you're becoming, from the maiden to the,
Grown.
and then to the crone. Yeah. And so it's like a wisdom. It's like a wise self that's kind of rising up to kind of help you put all the pieces together, why we're here and purpose. So maybe, yeah, talk a little bit maybe about what has your experience been like? I know menopause is very difficult for a lot of us.
I mean, I will talk about it openly. I've talked about the blood times openly. I did red tens, like I was very into the blood rights, women, priestess work, all that stuff. And so I can talk about it really openly because I think it's something that is going to help a lot of women to talk about this openly. My mother didn't talk about it at all. I have no
Right.
idea what she went through. I know she stopped drinking red wine, but that's all I know. And so for me, menopause, because I'm a very fiery, passionate person with go, 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 do, and burn it down, start anew. And I feel like menopause has literally put a pause on all my activities. It has brought me to my knees, literally, in humility of how a body can change almost overnight. Like the year, they say after 12 months of not bleeding, you're in full menopause. And so I
Mhm.
was counting those months and counting the months. And then it was month number 12. I'm like, all right, it's official. And so what I find, and I'm still working on hypnotic solution, is that what's, I think for me, what comes out most important is how we arrive in menopause. How we arrive at the gates of menopause is how it's going to go down. And so there is going to be a change. You can't meditate this away. There's definitely a mechanical thing that happens in the body. But what I do believe hypnosis can do, especially alchemy, is come to peace with your inner feminine. Come to peace with all the abuse on your reproductive organs, whether it was by others or by yourself, partners, miscarriages, abortions, rape, all the stuff that's in that bag of violations that we experience as women in that area needs to be cleared and healed to make that work. And then in collaboration, I would say what's helping me is my alchemical husband, who is a absolutely superstar of menopause, mainly because he educated himself around it without me. Not from me, but he
Mhm.
actually went online and started reading about what this is, what this means. And so I
Mhm.
feel having a supportive partner, which in most cases is not the case, but because
Yeah.
we all know the stereotypes of what happens when a woman enters menopause, she goes insane and becomes unreasonable. And so I
Yeah.
think healthy partnership is a really important factor. But what I wanted to say with the hypnosis is what I find is methods of self-hypnosis for relaxation. When the hot flashes come, to find your way to deal with that element of fire in your body. So I'm
Mhm.
kind of working on that. I have a beautiful workshop about the elements, and that's part of it is how do you deal with the fire that burns you up when that hot flash comes?
Yeah. And that's interesting because what I've seen too and noticed with myself and with my clients is that have women who've had a lot of, I think, abuse, sexual abuse, especially because it's in the sacral chakra. So sacral is our reproductive organs, our, intimate relationship, our feminine energy and of empowerment, worthiness, and also it's our creativity, it lives there. So there's been a lot of suppression. There's been a lot of abuse and neglect in this area. And so women who have like lots of feminine issues like PCOS, or, cysts or fibroids. I had them too. I was having a lot of issues, and I have a history of sexual abuse growing up as a child. And so I had to clear that too. Like, it's like that's really a healing that really needs to happen. And it's really also a way of learning how to love your body, love this feminine part of you that's really been taught to, hate. So
Yes.
yeah.
Allow that belly. It's going to grow. It's okay. It's, to love that and accept the changes. And I think the biggest thing is humility. I think it makes you very humble because you're no longer this, when we say, oh, young and hot and sexy and all those things, a lot of women try to continue that and continue that.
Mhm,
And I
mhm.
think what is sexy about an older woman is the acceptance of herself
Acceptance,
and
self-acceptance.
leaving herself alone and just accepting it and stepping into that wisdom. And so
Yeah.
I'm definitely loving that part. I'm loving the wisdom coming, and I'm loving the more I accept what's going on versus fighting it and struggle, and the more I feel better. I feel calm,
Yeah.
right? And
And
then
I think that's a programming too that we've all been taught, that we have all of these stereotypes and these beliefs about women can't be this or women should be this, versus like I'm 54 and I feel like, I'm probably in the best health of my life, or, and I feel more accepting of myself. I mean, of course, there's always struggles, but it's more about just learning to just step into who you are and accept that. But you can still be sexy at 80 or whatever, yeah, doesn't
exactly.
have to be.
That's it. It's the brainwashing and it's the 90s and the 80s of watching Baywatch and Victoria's
Yeah,
Secret models.
exactly. Right. Everybody's trying to stay young, but what's interesting is like you'll feel younger if you learn self-love, compassion and acceptance. I think that is part of our inner self, your inner child too, saying, hey, let's just play and be easy. You don't have to like be so serious all the time.
Yeah, I believe that too. And I do believe that the alchemy method is when I look at the people that practice the alchemy, not just with clients, but actually also with themselves, which we have to do. We can't just do it for others. We need to do it for ourselves.
Yeah,
You
gotta
need
do the work.
to notice a lot of active alchemists actually look pretty young and look pretty good and are pretty healthy because of the self methods that we can do, the understanding of
Exactly.
the body, and
Yeah.
we recognize when, oh, this is a core belief, or we recognize what is going on. There's a depletion. I better go ask my inner healer the story of what I need now. Or
Yeah.
so I do believe that the alchemy is definitely helping me be as youthful as I can be. And so just have to figure out. In fact, I'm going next week to have my own session with one of my colleagues, and we're going to go for the inner healer and find out what's the right steps for me with menopause. I will report back to you and let you know
Yes, let me know.
what's happening.
Yeah, Linda Baker, I think she says she's like in her late 70s. David, he's also in it. David Quigley, who invented alchemy, he's also, I think, in his late 70s or 80s, I don't know. But he's been doing it for like 40 years or something.
Yeah,
And they
exactly.
say, yeah, they felt the best that they've ever felt because they actually have done the work and healing. It reconnects you to also your magical child, your innocent
Right.
child. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, that's my child. I've always had my child in tow, which is why people always told me I'll never amount to anything because I'm too childish and I play too much. I don't work hard enough. And that's not true at all. I think because my child is with me at all times, well, not all times, but most of the time, and I've integrated it to the point where I can actually have fun and play and dance. And that's essential to what you said about David. David dances, David sings, and David goes on hikes. And here the same way, I'm very engaged in play. Dancing
Yes.
with my husband, singing out loud, doing my little doodles and my arts and crafts. And I think without that, it would just wouldn't be the same. That's the fountain of youth right there, right?
And yeah, that creativity, that playfulness lives in the sacral. I think that's a very sacred place for our body to really reconnect to this inner child. And they are the key. I always say we have to the magic kingdom. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that's beautiful.
I mean,
Anything else that? important.
I would just hope that the alchemy method gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and more people will check it out and look at the variety of practitioners that are out there and just see what this is about and how it could help them. Because I believe, just like when the first thing I learned, Carl Jung, you have to make the unconscious conscious, or you will call it fate. That is such a widely used saying, and it's ingrained in my brain. If something is unconscious, I can't fix it. But if I know what I'm dealing with on all levels, if I know spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physical what I'm dealing with, I can heal myself and then come to a point to enjoy my life, not healing anymore. That's the idea. Is I'm so tired of let's heal this, let's heal that. Let's be done and let's live and enjoy. And just wanted to say one more thing about that. In this next eclipse also, and this is I learned from my native teacher, also not just releasing anymore, because we've done so much release work, but what people often fail is to refill themselves, because we're all tapped out, we're all tired. It's the refilling, which is the play, which is the dance and the singing, for one. And also the celebration of the things you have managed to do, your up levelings, you're getting better, you're wiser, your business is the little wins, to really, really, really celebrate those so that we don't get more and more depleted.
For sure. And that's where alchemy comes in too, to help you raise your vibration. It's almost like as you're releasing, it's, the eclipse is about also new beginnings. So we're doing releasing old things that no longer serve you, and then walking into, well, what is this new life going to be like? Some people call it new earth now, but it's really a higher frequency of energy, which is love, positivity, accepting those good things into our life, because we've been blocking it, and we unconsciously block good things. Like you said something interesting about money blocks, right? You even changing your name was a block, unconsciously. We didn't know what that is, but if we don't allow ourselves to feel worthy of receiving good things, we definitely are blocking those things. And our thoughts and our beliefs also can contribute to that. But it's all the programming as well that we've been told that around money. But money is the flow. Money is about abundance and love energy, right? So it's a high frequency. It's like 500, frequency or higher. And we live in survival energy, which is sphere energy. And that's like really low vibration range. So sometimes, and this is why I also changed my whole practice. I don't think it was a choice. It was when I was like also, doing my own healing work. It's like I just got tired of listening to people also complaining about all the shit that they hated in their life, but didn't know how to like change that, right? So I think alchemy was really the impetus for me to really start accepting more of the good things, the possibilities, the opportunities.
Because you emptied your mucky, you turned lead into gold. That's what the Alchemy Foundation is. You took dis-ease and disharmony and an imbalance, and you straighten it out, and your chalice can now fill up with the good things.
Yeah, because you can't keep filling positive things in the shit.
No, right? You can't. It'll be a nasty blend, a terrible cocktail. No.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, the endings and new beginnings is really what eclipses are about, right? But we forget about what's that new beginning, new energy that we want to start receiving.
You don't need to know. See, this is another thing. This last thing I'm going to say. People are so worried about, well, I don't know what that looks like. You don't need to know what that looks like. You get to create it from your mental plane after you clean the causal planes and after you clean all your karma, so that your manifestation will actually work, right?
Yes.
Not just believing in it and saying it is so, but finding out how to become the person that can hold that frequency, like you said, of the money or of the abundance.
Yeah, that's a good point that you made about what helped me really understand what was I holding, what energetically, what beliefs that are stopping me or limiting me from stepping into that new life. And this is where I get really, when I listen to all these, podcasts and things about people doing law of attraction and manifestation and things, and people getting very discouraged because it's not just manifesting and it's not just, attracting. It's about also getting to the root of what's blocking you.
And is it even meant for you? Is what you're wanting so badly, is it because you want this because you want to prove something? Or is it really what your heart's desire is? Because the proof of what you just said is in your life. Look at your life, look at your relationships, look at your jobs. If you hate one of those things, you hate your job, you hate your spouse, or you're resentful towards your spouse for years and years and years. I mean, if you think that's not in the way of your happiness, right? So
Yes.
clear out the muck so you can shine bright. And that's why we
Mhm.
have to do the shadow work in alchemy. That's all alchemy is. It's literally the shit and turning it into
Yes.
something better.
Yeah, bring it to the light. So, and I can attest to, I left a 34-year marriage and I thought it was him all along, but it was really it was
Aha!
my energy, right? My energy of holding on to, hate, anger, resentment, all the things that lower frequency vibration. And then when I started to work through that and let go of it, it didn't matter what my ex was doing or not. It was me. Like I changed my energy, right? And it stopped, blocking the good things in my life. So our energy does impact our life.
Absolutely, and I've watched you go through it. I was there, and your change was incredible. You did a 180. You actually burned down and changed your whole life. And I think
Yeah.
that's a great success story. Just looking at your own story, how much your willingness to look at your shit has given you in return. How
Yeah.
beautiful that is.
And I usually don't share things personally about myself, but I feel like this podcast is really important to like share to let people know that as a therapist, and I'm human too. And recently my ex actually died a couple of weeks ago, and I'm so grateful for the work that we did together, and also the other colleagues did with me. Is that I actually started to work on releasing and letting go and really getting to that place of acceptance. Otherwise, it would really have been a terrible time. I would have been so
Wow.
overwhelmed and not known what to do with the death and the passing of my ex. But I almost like felt like a sense of like peace and relief. And I don't know if I shared with you this, but you actually had a dream about him right the day after I think that he passed it. That or if I knew of his passing. And it was like very loving. It's like, came and said, love, love you, love each other. And it was like that sense of peace. Like we could just really detach and we'd cut those karmic cords and wounds that we had. And it was like very, loving. Yeah.
It's beautiful because you did past lives, you did the whole array of alchemical opportunities. And that is what's so beautiful about the alchemy too, before we leave, is the how we deal with death, how we look at death as eternal beings. And so when we lose someone, the way when you learn this alchemy hypnosis, you actually change how you look at death, and you change how you process grief, and you can help so many people process grief, which is fundamentally one of the biggest things that causes cancer and
Yes.
tons of other
Literally, he came as a spirit, right? It's like his spirit came to me, and we really had that closure thing. So, like, I'm not having as hard a time as my daughter, who had some issues with her dad, but that needed to be healed. But yeah, I felt like I did the work, and it felt such a relief. Yeah,
great. That's awesome.
yeah. All right. So tell everyone maybe how they can find you if they want to work with you.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So you can go on, my website is alexalittlestar.com or moondoings.com. It's both. I kept both because I like them both.
Mhm.
That's one way to get a hold of me. And there's a contact button there you can click. Or you can go to moondoings@gmail.com. That's my direct email. I'm pretty good at responding pretty quickly. and just write me an email. What do you want to work on? What you want to illuminate? And that's it. That's pretty much it. Really simple. I made a deck based on a young lady that wanted to do the archetypal magic work that I offered, taking pictures and embodiment. And so we created the 12 basic archetype. It's really good for beginners to get used to archetypes. It's just like a tarot deck. You pull one and then it comes with a little poetry. And so you can see how that resonates with you. Who are you working with out of the archetypal deck? And it's great fun. And you can also use that for a game. You can have a women's circle and use that game as the foundation of your women's circle, which has been really fun to do in the past. I hope I can return to doing that in person now that we're not locked up anymore.
Yeah, no, it's a really beautiful deck. I've got it, and yeah, it was like interesting in the one that also is like the void or the nothing. So don't be afraid of that, because that's that unknown, right?
Yes, don't be afraid of the unknown. That's the biggest thing, is you don't need to know.
Exactly. We don't need to know. And it's usually, it's if it's meant to be, it's gonna happen.
That's right.
Okay, well, thanks so much.
Much love and gratitude for tuning in to the Yunique Mind Podcast. I hope today's episode gave you new insights and tools to support your healing and wellness journey. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might benefit. You can also reach me via my website at yuniquecounseling.com, and that's unique with a Y. Until next time, stay curious, stay mindful, and keep exploring your unique mind. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. While I am a doctor, PhD, this podcast does not create a doctor-patient relationship, and the information shared should not be considered medical or psychological advice. Always consult a licensed healthcare provider before making any decisions regarding your health.